Hello friends, today we are going to learn the anatomy of radius or the radial bone. Radius is a long bone extending from the elbow to the wrist, and it is a lateral bone present in the forearm, and it is homologous with the medial bone of leg, the tibia. Now let us see its anatomical position and side determination. To keep radius in its anatomical position and to determine the side, you have to place the bone vertically in such a way that its superior aspect should have a disc-shaped upper end and a constrictor neck, and its inferior aspect should have a broad lower end with smooth anterior surface and grooved posterior surface. Here you can see the grooved posterior surface, and medially it should have a sharp medial border, the interosseous border, as it gives attachment to the interosseous membrane. And laterally you will see the convex lateral surface, and in the lateral aspect at the lower end you can see a process called the styloid process. And anteriorly the surface should be concave, and posteriorly it should have a tubercle called dorsal tubercle at its lower end. By following these rules, you can place the radius in its anatomical position. This is right radius in its anatomical position. You can see it here clearly with a disc-shaped head upwards and a broad lower end downwards and a sharp medial border towards medial side and a convex lateral surface and a styloid process in the lateral aspect, and anteriorly the concave surface, and posteriorly we will see a dorsal tubercle of Lister. Let us see the gross features and attachments of radius. Radius has three parts: an upper end which has a head, neck and a tuberosity, an intervening shaft which has three borders: an anterior border, a medial border, anterior border and a posterior border, and three surfaces: the anterior surface, the posterior surface and a lateral surface. And it has a lower end which is broad and has five surfaces: anterior surface, the medial surface and the lateral surface, the medial surface and an inferior surface, and posteriorly the posterior surface. Coming to the head is a disc-shaped structure covered by hyaline cartilage to attach with the capitulum of humerus to form humeroradial joint, and its circumference, here is the circumference, and it is smooth. Medially it attaches with the radial notch of ulna. Remember this point, radial notch is present in ulna and ulnar notch is present in radius over here, and the rest of it is encircled by the annular ligament. And coming to the neck is a constricted part just below the head, and it is embraced by the annular ligament, and medially it gives attachment to the quadrate ligament. And the tuberosity, the radial tuberosity, it gives insertion to the biceps tendon in its posterior rough part, and it is related to a synovial bursa in the anterior smooth part which separates it from the biceps tendon. And coming to the anterior border of shaft, anterior border extends from the anterolateral aspect of radial tuberosity and extends downwards up to the styloid process. Superiorly it is oblique, forming the anterior oblique line, and inferiorly it forms the lateral border of anterior surface. This is the anterior surface and it forms the lateral border of anterior surface, and down it goes up to the styloid process. On the anterior oblique line it gives origin to the radial head of flexor digitorum superficialis. And coming to the medial border extends superiorly from the radial tuberosity and goes up to the lower end, and it is sharpest border, and it gives attachment to the interosseous membrane which is present between the radius and ulna. This is the interosseous membrane, and in the lower part it forms posterior margin of a small triangle. Here is a small triangle located in the lower end, and it forms the posterior margin of it. And next, the posterior border also extends from the radial tuberosity obliquely downwards, forming the posterior oblique line, and in the middle part it is distinct, and in the lower part it will be indistinct. And coming to the anterior surface, this is the anterior surface, and it gives attachment to two muscles in the upper 2/4, that means in the upper one half it gives origin to flexor pollicis longus, and in the lower 1/4 it gives insertion to pronator quadratus, and in the middle it has a nutrient foramen which is directed upwards. As the growing end of radius is located in the distal end, so the nutrient foramen is directed upwards, and it passes the nutrient artery which is a branch of anterior interosseous artery. And next, the lateral surface is convex, and it gives attachment to two muscles. Insertion of supinator in the upper one-third of the surface and insertion of pronator teres in the middle, most convex part of the lateral surface. Next, the posterior surface. The posterior surface gives origin to the abductor pollicis longus, abductor AB, in the middle one-third, and just below it, the extensor pollicis brevis, EPB. And finally, the lower end of radius, which is the broadest part, and it has 5 surfaces: the anterior surface, lateral, medial, the inferior surface, and the posterior surface. Coming to the anterior surface, it presents a thick ridge for the attachment of a ligament called palmar radiocarpal ligament of wrist joint. And next, the lateral surface. The lateral surface extends below as the styloid process. Here you can see the styloid process, and at the base of styloid process there is insertion of brachioradialis, and at the tip of the styloid process there is attachment of a ligament called radial collateral ligament of wrist joint. And the medial surface has a notch called the ulnar notch of radius. As I already mentioned, ulnar notch is present in radius and radial notch is present in ulna. The ulnar notch gives attachment to the head of ulna to form inferior radioulnar joint, and at the lower margin of the notch there is attachment of the articular disc of the joint. And next, the posterior surface. The posterior surface is grooved and it has a tubercle called dorsal tubercle of Lister, and it has grooves for the passage of extensor tendons of the forearm muscles. Let us see them now. Here you can see this is the posterior surface, and here is the dorsal tubercle. And medial, this is the medial side and this is the lateral side. And on the medial to the dorsal tubercle there is passage of tendons of extensor digitorum tendons and extensor pollicis longus tendon, and laterally there is passage of extensor carpi radialis brevis and extensor carpi radialis longus tendons. And here you can see the tendons of extensor pollicis brevis and abductor pollicis longus, which are related to the lateral surface of the lower end. Here you can see they are related to the lateral surface of lower end. Coming to the inferior surface, the inferior surface has a small triangular area in the lateral part and a quadrangular area in the medial part. The triangular area articulates with the scaphoid and the quadrangular area articulates with the lateral part of the lunate. That's all about gross features and attachments. Now let us see the ossification of radius. Radius ossifies with the help of a primary center which appears at the 8th week of intrauterine life. And the secondary centers, there are 2 secondary centers, one at the lower end and one at the upper end. In the lower end, it appears in the first year and fuses with the shaft in the 20th year. And the upper end the secondary center appears around the 5th year and fuses with the shaft around 12th year. The growing end of radius is located at the distal end. That's all about ossification. Now let's see some clinical correlations. Here you can see the fracture of shaft of radius. Here is the fracture, and this fracture is below the insertion of biceps tendon and above the insertion of pronator teres, so that here you can see the distal fragment is pronated, the pronation of the distal fragment where by the pronator teres, whereas the proximal fragment is supinated by a supinator. Next, the Colles fracture. Here there is fracture in the distal fragment and the distal part of radius, and the distal fragment is dislocated backwards and upwards. This is Colles fracture. And next, the Smith's fracture. Here also there is fracture at the distal end of radius, but the distal fragment is dislocated upwards and forwards. This is just opposite to the Colles fracture. In Colles fracture it is backwards, whereas in Smith's fracture it is forwards. Next, the Chaffee's fracture. Here you can see the fracture of styloid process. The styloid fracture, this is called styloid fracture. Next one, the Madelung deformity. Here you can see the anterior bowing of the distal end of radius. This is a congenital anomaly due to the defective development of distal epiphysis of the radius. Here there is absence of epiphyseal line, so there will be abnormal growth of distal end. There may be a subluxation or dislocation of the ulna because of the overgrowth of radius. This is about the Madelung deformity. Thank you.